Dustin's a little bit of a picker.
I would say that's basic. The most basic thing you need to do to probably be an Open champion.
There have been a few positives as well.
Everything that happened last couple months is behind us. This is the start of a new season.
People expected to hear why Dustin Johnson was terrible, and golf legends lined up to explain exactly that. Dustin Johnson once stood at the top of professional golf. He won tournaments for 15 straight years. He collected 24 PGA Tour victories. He earned 2 major championships. Then in June 2022, he shocked the golf world by joining LIV Golf. That single decision triggered the harshest criticism from fellow professionals that any modern golfer has faced. The backlash was immediate, brutal, and unrelenting. Royal Bank of Canada dropped Johnson like a bad habit the moment he signed with LIV. The bank publicly announced its disappointment and terminated a sponsorship deal that had lasted years. UPS followed suit with other defectors. Corporate sponsors sent a clear message. Choosing LIV meant choosing money over relationships. PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan suspended Johnson and every other LIV player immediately. The suspensions put their future tournament eligibility in serious jeopardy. Social media exploded with fan reactions. Analysis showed that discussions about LIV constantly used words like money, cash, and blood. Johnson stayed silent. His reserved personality meant he rarely engaged in public debate. That silence became a problem. Critics filled the void with their own narratives. They painted Johnson as purely greedy. The narrative stuck because Johnson never fought back with words. He let the financial terms of his contract speak for themselves. That was a mistake. Johnson's entire career had been built on letting his golf clubs do the talking. But in this new reality of competing tours and fractured loyalties, silence was interpreted as guilt. Every day without a public defense was another day the critics controlled the story. The damage compounded rapidly. Brooks Koepka delivered some of the most personal criticism. For years, media outlets called Koepka and Johnson the Bash brothers of American golf. They trained together almost every day with strength. Coach Joey D. The friendship story reached its peak when both played in the final group at the 2018 U.S. Open. Fans loved the narrative of two champions pushing each other to greatness, but the friendship was mostly fake. By 2021, Koepka publicly stated the entire friendship was overplayed. He admitted the closeness only existed because they trained together for 2 years. Koepka clarified that he was not close with anyone on tour. He did not need to see other players when he went home. This public distancing mattered. Koepka dissolved the emotional connection before anyone could call his own eventual LIV move a betrayal. He reframed the relationship as purely professional rather than personal. If you're enjoying this breakdown of how golf legends turned on Dustin Johnson, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me which criticism you think hurt his reputation the most. Your engagement helps me bring you more deep dives into the drama behind professional golf. The darkest moment in the Koepka and Johnson relationship came after the 2018 Ryder Cup in Paris. Reports claimed the two major champions got into a physical brawl inside the European team room. Sources said Koepka exploded in anger and threatened Johnson directly. The quote that leaked was chilling. Koepka allegedly told Johnson he would flatten him. The altercation got so heated that teammates had to physically separate them. The fight reportedly involved their romantic partners. Paulina Gretzky, Johnson's wife, and Gina Sims, Koepka's wife, were somehow connected to the conflict. The exact details never became fully public, but the rumor persisted. Both players denied everything. Koepka insisted there was no fight and no argument. He called Johnson one of his best friends and dismissed the report as gossip. Later, Koepka changed his story slightly. He said they were just horsing around and messing around in the team room. Johnson called the claims laughable. He stated they were sleeping and that fighting was not their relationship style. He described both of them as even-keeled guys. Despite these denials, the story refused to die. The sustained media attention created a perception that Johnson caused conflict in team environments. The PGA Tour operates as a collective where players essentially own the organization. Johnson's later decision to abandon this collective framework seemed consistent with someone who put personal interest over team unity. The Ryder Cup incident became Exhibit A in building a case that Johnson was a problematic teammate who cared more about himself than the group. Webb Simpson delivered the most devastating long-term critique. Simpson focused on historical damage rather than personal betrayal. His core argument was simple but brutal. Johnson forfeited his opportunity to be unquestionably ranked among the top 10 greatest players in golf history. Simpson emphasized that Johnson's 24 PGA Tour wins were arguably more impressive than his 2 major championships. Those 24 victories demonstrated sustained dominance and consistency. By resigning his PGA Tour membership, Johnson permanently stopped adding to that definitive record. Simpson argued that while Johnson still possessed his major titles, the lack of continued high-level PGA Tour competition meant we would never know how far Johnson could have pushed his career. Simpson believed this denial prevented Johnson from cementing himself unquestionably among the all-time greats. The evaluation asserted that objective historical greatness was tied directly to success within the established tour system. Simpson extended his criticism beyond numbers to philosophy. He expressed sadness that money had become such a heavy consideration for younger players. Simpson stated explicitly that the current generation seemed to have missed or simply did not care about what previous generations valued. Those values included Hall of Fame induction, total PGA Tour wins, and contending in major championships. Simpson observed that everyone just talked about money. This analysis framed Johnson's decision not as a simple transaction, but as a fundamental abandonment of competitive immortality. For peers who prioritized competitive validation, this represented a profound failure of professional duty. The split into two competing leagues meant fewer high-level competitions overall. Elite players only faced each other consistently at the 4 major championships. This competitive dilution supported Simpson's argument that Johnson sacrificed the inherent value of weekly competitive excellence for individual financial gain. Billy Horschel emerged as one of the most aggressive critics. Horschel demanded absolute loyalty to the PGA Tour. His most forceful comments targeted players who wanted to compete on both LIV and the PGA or DP World Tours. Horschel called this desire for dual membership completely asinine. His stance allowed no compromise. Players like Johnson had resigned their memberships. They made their bed. Horschel argued that if these players did not wish to support the PGA Tour, which had provided them opportunities and financial stability, they should just stay away. He believed the tour would be fine without them. Horschel's most damaging critique involved mathematics. Many LIV defectors, including Johnson, claimed they wanted a reduced playing schedule for better quality of life. Horschel directly challenged this justification with simple calculations. If a defector tried to play both the 15 required PGA Tour events and the expanded LIV schedule, which was planning for 14 events, the player would commit to approximately 29 tournaments per year. That was more golf, not less. This calculation destroyed the schedule defense. It confirmed that financial motive was the sole overwhelming priority. Any public relations justifications about rest or family time were exposed as lies. Horschel's analytical point was instrumental in cementing the mercenary narrative. It stripped away any remaining credibility from the defectors' stated reasons. Interestingly, Horschel's stance softened by 2024. Similar to Rory McIlroy, Horschel suggested the PGA Tour should extend an olive branch. He argued that key LIV players, including Johnson, should be allowed into flagship events like the Players' Championship. Horschel admitted the field was diminished without them. This shift reflected institutional reality. Excluding elite talent permanently damaged the competitive quality of major events, even if the initial defection deserved condemnation. Jon Rahm provided criticism from a competitive integrity perspective. Before his own shocking defection in December 2023, Rahm was an outspoken LIV critic. Rahm publicly stated that while he understood the financial appeal, the structural characteristics were not appealing to him. He specifically targeted the 54-hole shotgun start format. To Rahm, it was simply not a golf tournament. Johnson, as the primary early signature of LIV, implicitly accepted this competitively inferior format. This validated criticisms from peers like Rahm and Simpson. They believed competitive rigor and traditional structures were being sacrificed for money. The acceptance of a non-traditional format by a player of Johnson's caliber gave credence to the argument that competitive integrity was secondary to cash. Rahm's eventual decision to join LIV as reigning Masters champion and world number 3 player stunned everyone. His defection proved that LIV's financial lure was irresistible, even to players who consistently prioritized competitive legacy and format purity. Rahm attributed his change of heart partially to ongoing negotiations between the PGA Tour and the PIF. He noted that if the PGA Tour was now open to working with the PIF or LIV, that opened the door for him to do the same thing. Despite joining, Rahm continued advocating for format changes. He preferred a return to 72 holes to help acquire official world golf ranking points. The competitive anxiety remained even after defection. Rahm's reversal retrospectively validated Johnson's original financial gamble. The fact that an athlete with Rahm's strong competitive principles eventually succumbed demonstrated the overwhelming financial supremacy of LIV. This outcome reduced the moral authority of those who continued criticizing Johnson strictly based on format. Pat Perez played a crucial role in shaping negative perceptions through extreme candor. Perez was a teammate of Johnson on the successful Four Aces team. He openly admitted that money was the sole driver of his decision. Perez famously compared switching to LIV to winning the lottery. He provided explicit financial details that underscored the economic calculus. Perez noted that in his 22-year PGA Tour career, he earned $28 million. In contrast, by being part of Four Aces on LIV, he earned $8 million in his first season alone, largely due to team bonuses. Perez highlighted the massive financial incentive of LIV's structure. One great Sunday could turn a 20th place finish into a $4 million payday. This earning potential far exceeded anything possible on the PGA Tour. This transparency cemented the public image of LIV as purely mercenary. Perez's honesty was appreciated, but it reinforced negative stereotypes. The most direct reputational damage to Johnson Johnson came from his association with outspoken teammates. Following a 4 aces victory in Australia, Perez launched an aggressive verbal assault on PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan. Perez stated bluntly that they did not give a damn how Monahan felt. He added that they knew how he felt about them, so it was mutual. This contemptuous quote was initially misreported by the Australian Associated Press. They attributed it directly to Dustin Johnson. Johnson's agent was forced to issue a public denial. David Winkle asserted that Johnson had said no comment and retained respect for Monahan. The incident confirmed that Johnson's carefully cultivated detached public image was vulnerable to his teammates' aggressive, cynical rhetoric. The need for public correction underscored the reputational drag Johnson endured by leading the most successful team in a league overtly motivated by financial gain. In the eyes of critics, Perez's admitted cynicism became Johnson's perceived truth. The competitive decline following Johnson's defection provided empirical evidence supporting the critics. Johnson's renowned consistency came to an abrupt halt. His streak of winning every calendar year since 2014 was broken in 2025. His individual results in recent LIV events have been subpar. Finishes included tied for 44th, tied for 31st, and even dead last in Hong Kong during the 2025 campaign. While he remained successful as skipper of 4 aces, this competitive downturn validated arguments from Simpson and Horschel. If a player of Johnson's caliber saw his game suffer after choosing less competitive rigor, it reinforced the narrative that the move was detrimental. Johnson's defense mechanism has been largely dismissive. His rare direct response to critics was marked by sarcasm. He stated that he really regretted his decision. This response, while aimed at deflecting criticism, confirmed that his primary counter-argument was the overwhelming satisfaction of his financial windfall. The largest structural problem supporting damaged legacy narrative is the official World Golf Ranking issue. LIV Golf's inability to secure OWGR status means players cannot be objectively ranked against PGA Tour peers. This creates permanent ambiguity that Webb Simpson predicted. It fundamentally prevents Johnson from solidifying his position as an unquestionable all-time great. The peer critiques from Koepka, Horschel, Rahm, Simpson, and Perez collectively imposed a lasting negative narrative on Johnson's choice. Koepka confirmed the dissolution of professional brotherhood. He suggested Johnson prioritized personal interests over team unity, foreshadowing disloyalty to the PGA Tour collective. Horschel analytically dismantled quality-of-life justifications. He confirmed the motive was mercenary and demanded permanent severance. Simpson established the legacy tax. He asserted Johnson traded unquestionable historical supremacy for immediate financial gain. Rahm, though he eventually followed, highlighted the competitive compromise Johnson accepted through his pre-defection criticism of format. His later reversal proved money was the ultimate factor in the golf civil war. Perez, through crude candor and resulting misattribution of contemptuous quotes, indelibly linked Johnson's leadership brand to the most cynical elements of financial opportunism. Despite everything, Dustin Johnson remains an incredibly talented golfer. His physical gifts and competitive drive made him a dominant force for over a decade. He achieved massive financial security through his LIV decision. He remains a powerful figure within the LIV ecosystem. His success as team captain demonstrates leadership ability. But in the court of golf history and peer perception, Johnson's move was a profound professional sacrifice. By prioritizing wealth over competitive purity and traditional institutional metrics of the PGA Tour, he permanently forfeited his opportunity to be designated, without asterisk or doubt, among the sport's all-time greatest competitors. The consensus view among golf legends is clear. The decision, while financially brilliant, was career-limiting in terms of historical stature. Johnson secured his bank account but lost his legacy. That is the unquestionable cost that golf legends explain when they talk about why Dustin Johnson's decision hurt him so badly. If this breakdown opened your eyes to the real price Johnson paid for his LIV move, make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments whether you think he made the right choice. Sometimes the biggest wins come with the biggest losses, and Johnson's story proves that money cannot buy respect from the legends who came before you.